Hello and welcome back to the Exist Better YouTube channel. Today we're talking about another thing that's bound to offend someone, but I found that that's pretty much unavoidable when you're really talking about the collective shadow, right? So really what shadow is all about is what's taboo. What does no one want to look at? What does no one want to acknowledge? And so, these things are very highly triggering. So when we're doing like one-on-one shadow work, we're looking at the individual, what are the blind spots? What are the emotional patterns? What are the habits? Basically, what's keeping you from progressing toward what you want to have and who you want to be. But since this is a public YouTube channel, that's not really the place for that sort of stuff. So I find it really fun and just sort of interesting to address the collective shadow, right? Which is these widespread societal patterns that keep happening. They tend to be really controversial. Everyone's all upset about them, and no one ever addresses why they're happening. So this is the case with today's topic, mansplaining. First, I'm going to say what it is in case you don't know, and then I'm going to explain exactly why it's happening. There's this trend, this thing that tends to happen, not all the time, but often enough that they've come up with a name for it. Women have come up with a name for this. So here's how it goes. A woman is explaining something. She's usually sharing how she feels, what she thinks, all of this stuff that could be interpreted as usually important to her. So she's sharing these things out loud, whether it's on the internet or in person or wherever. And so she's in this very particular space of kind of like vulnerability, whether she realizes it or not. She's in a vulnerable space because she's sharing all this stuff. And then, conveniently, a man will tiptoe his way into the situation, and he will give what we often call unsolicited advice. But it goes way beyond unsolicited advice. What he'll actually do is proceed to explain to her why everything she says, thinks, and feels is incorrect. So there's always this emphasis on you are objectively wrong. Allow me to explain to you why that is and how you can be different, essentially. What the man thinks is happening is that he's being helpful. And we're going to get into that in a second. But what the woman thinks is happening is basically an attack. So the woman's experience of this situation is always gaslighting. Basically, her interpretation is, I am being disrespected, I am being unheard, I'm not seen as valuable. What the woman perceives as happening is, I have encountered an enemy. Because there's a massive shortage of validation in the society, people are very used to being and feeling completely invalidated, unseen, misunderstood, etc., etc. And so this is already a trigger and a wound waiting to erupt. The man who is coming in and doing this actually does not see you, understand you, even perceive your value, really. That's not at all where he is focused. When someone is mansplaining to you, you are literally now in a space that is suddenly unsafe. And worst of all, sometimes you didn't even anticipate that that was going to happen. You kind of assumed safety. So this is when it's even worse. Now, while the woman is busy being offended, the real reason for this problem is being completely subverted. And that has everything to do with the emotional unconsciousness of many men. Not all, but enough of them. Feminists have decided that men's hatred of women is the reason why this is happening. And this is absolutely false. What causes certain men to do this is their own extreme unconsciousness around their own unmet need. Let's say that again. What causes mansplaining to happen is those men's extreme unconsciousness about their own unmet emotional needs. Basically, the man is looking for a place to assert himself, which is natural for men to do, but they're completely barking up the wrong tree for where they're doing it. So they're picking these situations where, for whatever reason, they're attracted to these specific women, whether it's romantic attraction or intellectual attraction or, usually you'll see this happening between heterosexual men and women. And so there's some sort of attraction happening that's pulling them to these women. Because they have not done a lot of shadow work, they're not aware of what emotional needs they have. And so they're just sort of like asserting themselves in all these situations to get those emotional needs met, where it is just not appropriate or invited or wanted, So it's like, someone has the spotlight and they're sharing all this stuff. This is the woman's side of it. The woman's in a spotlight, whether she's written an article and maybe the man is in the comment section. I've seen a lot of this. Or, whatever. She's giving a speech and he comes up to her afterwards. Basically, the woman is in the spotlight. She is looking to be validated in that spotlight. The last thing on earth that she is looking for in that moment is to be told that she's wrong and to be instructed on what to do and how to be instead. I don't know if these guys have ever met women, but women are almost never looking to be told what they're doing wrong and how and why they're wrong and incorrect and how to be different. Like, I cannot think of an instance where I was ever looking for that sort of feedback, except for maybe when when you hire someone and you're looking for that sort of critical feedback. That's very valuable. And so when I'm just speaking as a woman, when I'm looking for it, a lot of times I will just go seek it out specifically, whether it's free content, how to do this, how to do that, or I'll actually hire someone to help me with that blind spot. So mansplainers, what they're doing is they're trying to get their need for validation met. They're looking for recognition for their own intelligence, their logic, their skills, their willingness to be helpful, maybe. The reason this feels so bad from the receiving end and why women always get so offended and triggered by this situation is because of what is unknown by the man. So the man is not aware that he is trying to get a need met. So he is essentially using the woman to get this need met. And she feels that, although she usually, like I said, she thinks it's like a feminism thing, like you hate me because I'm a woman. She doesn't know that it's about his emotional unconsciousness. All she knows is that something is being done to her that is incorrect. It's sort of like unjust, right? And the reason it's unjust, it has nothing to do with like this feminist stuff. What's unjust about it is that the man is unconsciously using the woman to get a need met when she was not looking to do so. He was not invited. She was usually a lot of times trying to get her own need met for whatever. That's why she was talking or doing whatever. So it's like he's coming in and basically blocking her need. Not only is he blocking her need from being met, her need for recognition and whatever, but he's putting his own need on top of it and trying to like shove her down and use her to get that need met, all in the guise of, I'm trying to help you understand something. This is why it is such a massive, massive, massive gaslight. And the man doesn't know that he's a gaslighter because he is not aware of his feelings. And that is the crisis of these men. So I cannot stress this enough. The man is unaware of his feelings. They are in shadow. That is what is wrong here. He is barking up the wrong tree to get his emotional needs met, and that is irresponsible. That is why it is offensive to the woman. It has nothing to do with men thinking they're better than women or some sort of esoteric like feminist battle of the sexes. None of that. It's men's unconsciousness of their own emotions and their unwillingness to deal with that, which becomes very offensive when it is put on women and they get very triggered and irritated because they are often in touch with their emotions, for better or worse. It doesn't mean that they're super conscious or more conscious. It just means that they're in touch, and so they can sense that something emotional is off about this situation. So I hope that makes sense. If you find yourself in these situations as a woman, you need to stop getting incredibly offended and aggressive and triggery and insisting that it's a personal attack. It is kind of personal, but it's not about you. It's not about you at all. It's about them. So if you're a man and you get accused of this a lot, take it seriously. Take it seriously. It is a thing, deal with whatever is coming up. If there's shame or guilt coming up, you don't need to focus on that. Just focus on getting your needs met in healthy ways. And you will start to find that there are people out there who actually want and need your talents and skills, and you don't have to go stuffing it at people. So I hope this video sheds light on a very common social dynamic that I would like to see eliminated because it's very annoying. Thanks for watching. If you like this sort of content, you can follow this channel. And if you're interested in doing your own emotional development work so that you can have an easier, better, less confusing, muddled, dark, conflict-ridden life, I do one-on-one work with people. You can check out the link below, and I do sessions now on Tuesdays and Thursdays, mostly. So if you're interested in that, you can get in touch, and I will see you in the next video. So one last thing I wanted to add here that's really interesting is a lot of men who get in trouble with women a lot, they say things like, well, nowadays with feminism, like, you never know what you can say to a woman. Like, you don't know if you can approach them at like every little thing is offensive, and so we might as well just give up. That perspective is a sign that they can't distinguish between what is helpful and safe for women versus what is hurtful and not safe for women. And the reason that you wouldn't be able to distinguish this, like, for example, some guys are going to watch this and be like, I don't have this problem at all. I don't do this. I don't understand it. A lot of guys will just think like, well, it's common sense what's safe versus unsafe. It's common sense when you say this and not that. It's common sense when you approach a woman and when you don't. All of this is common sense to some men because they have more emotional integration. So the men who are struggling big time with all stuff around women and they keep offending women and they can't seem to figure it out, that what's happening is there is a big blind spot with their own emotions, so they actually can't relate that well to women who generally have more emotionality to them, generally speaking. So they do not relate to emotionality at all, whereas a more integrated man who either, has done a lot of, either he has done some inner work, or, he has a personality where he's more open to, that side of himself. He's open to the feminine side of himself, basically. At least to the extent that he doesn't really find it hard to relate to women or understand women. Whereas the guy who has not integrated, he's going to have a lot of issues relating to women. So I thought that was worth noting.